Some people don't hate you out loud. They just smile, while hoping you fail. And the scariest part, you might still call them friends. But today, you're going to see through it. 7 signs, hidden behind smiles, polite words, and fake support. If you spot even one, it's time to pay attention. Some people weaponize humor. They don't shout at you. They don't insult you directly. They simply joke, again and again, always about your flaws. At first, it feels harmless. You smile, you play along. But over time, the jokes don't stop. They chip at your confidence. It's not laughter anymore. It's quiet humiliation. They're testing your limits, seeing how much disrespect you'll tolerate while hiding behind the mask of just messing with you. You may start to question yourself. Are my flaws really that bad? But here's the truth. People who care about you don't joke at your expense to feel bigger. Society may call you too sensitive if you speak up, but staying silent turns the joke into a pattern. And eventually that pattern rewrites how you see yourself. I've lived it. I've laughed along until I didn't. And once I drew the line, everything changed. Not just how they treated me, but how I saw myself. Next time someone makes you the punchline, ask yourself, is this funny? Or is it just cruel? You don't owe anyone your silence, especially when their laughter costs you your self-worth. Not all insults come dressed as anger. Some show up as compliments, with a sharp edge you weren't expecting. You smile, say thank you, but inside, something twists. It's that familiar moment when someone praises you, but somehow you feel smaller, not seen. They say, "You look good for someone like you," or "You did well, considering your usual standards." It's not admiration. It's a disguised jab wrapped in civility. I remember the day I finally lost the weight I'd worked months to shed. A friend looked at me and said, "Oh, I guess it's easier for you than for people who really struggle." That sentence stayed with me longer than the fat ever did. Because it wasn't about celebrating my effort. It was about reminding me where they think I belong, beneath them. These are not random words. They're control mechanisms. Backhanded compliments are designed to make you second-guess yourself. They don't want to see you shine. They want you to shrink. You start doubting your worth, wondering if you've overestimated your progress, if your pride is misplaced. But here's what I learned. You have the right to question a compliment that hurts. You don't have to play along. When someone says, "You did better than I expected," try asking them, "What exactly did you expect from me before this?" Watch how fast the mask slips. Because people who genuinely care, they don't use praise as poison. They lift you. They don't lace their kindness with condescension. So the next time you walk away from a compliment feeling worse, pause, feel it, and ask, what were they really trying to say? Your confidence deserves truth, not subtle sabotage. Some betrayals aren't loud. They don't come with arguments or slammed doors or cruel words. They come in silence, in the way you're not invited, not asked, not seen. You sit in a group of people who once felt like home, but no one looks at you when they're planning the next move. They talk about ideas, dreams, and future trips. But your voice is never in the room, even when you're there. They tell you, "Oh, we thought you wouldn't be interested." Or worse, "You're always quiet anyway." But deep down, you know it's not about your silence. It's about theirs. They've made a decision, quietly, carefully, to leave you out, without confrontation. And somehow, that hurts more. I've lived that kind of invisibility, sitting among friends, trying to join in only to be interrupted, or worse, ignored. I went home that night with an ache in my chest and one question in my mind. Do I even matter to them anymore? Truth is, exclusion is often intentional. It's how people distance themselves without having to explain why. They hope you'll take the hint, that you'll slowly fade out of the picture to avoid the discomfort of a real conversation. And if you accept that, if you stay quiet, you become exactly what they treat you as, an afterthought. But I stopped doing that. I started asking, why wasn't I included? Why didn't my opinion count? Some got uncomfortable, some deflected. But something shifted. Because I stopped pretending I was okay with being forgotten. People who value you won't leave you on the edge of connection. They want your voice in the conversation. They want you in the room, not just in the background. So if you feel yourself being quietly pushed out, don't wait for them to pull you back in. Ask why. Speak up. Because your presence should never feel like a favor. We all know the phrase. I've just been so busy lately. It rolls off the tongue like an apology, but lands like an excuse. Because you see them. They're posting stories from beach trips, dinners, and late-night hangouts, laughing with people who aren't you, making time for everyone else, except you. I've been on the receiving end of that silence. I once messaged a close friend asking if they were coming to a small reunion. They said they were swamped, overloaded, just couldn't make it. 2 days later, I saw pictures. They were out partying with others, smiling like they'd never been stressed a day in their life. And I realized something that hurt more than their absence. I wasn't a priority anymore. I was an option. We're taught to accept busy as the perfect cover. We tell ourselves not to overthink it. But let's be honest. People make time for who they want to make time for. And if someone is always too busy for you, it's not about their calendar, it's about their choices. Yes, everyone has responsibilities, but the truth is, presence is a decision, and so is absence. I've been on both sides. There were times I avoided people because I didn't know how to be honest about drifting away. And I know others have done the same to me. But learning to confront that silence, to ask why I'm the only one getting excuses, changed everything. It's not about blaming, it's about clarity. So you can stop chasing relationships built on convenience. If someone shows up only when it suits them, you're not building a connection. You're being used to fill empty space. Your time, your energy, your loyalty, they're not leftovers. They're worth showing up for. So if you keep hearing, "I'm busy," but never seeing the effort, stop accepting the excuse, because you deserve to be chosen, not tolerated. Physical distance isn't always about space. Sometimes it's a statement. And when someone avoids even the smallest touch, a handshake, a tap on the shoulder sitting next to you, you feel it. Not just in your skin, but in your gut. I once worked with someone who never shook my hand, not once. When I reached out, they'd pull back. Awkward smiles, stiff body language, like my presence made them uncomfortable. At first, I brushed it off. Told myself maybe they were just not a touchy person. But then, I noticed they hugged others. They leaned in close. They shared warm hellos. It wasn't about boundaries. It was selective distance. And I was on the outside. The truth hit harder than their withdrawal. They weren't just avoiding physical contact. They were rejecting connection, creating a safe space. Not for both of us, but for themselves, away from me. We often ignore these signals because we don't want to seem paranoid. But your instincts don't lie. The body speaks what the mouth avoids. When someone consistently pulls away from you and only you, it's a sign. Not of hate maybe, but of discomfort, disconnection, and emotional retreat. I tried to pretend it didn't matter, but the longer I denied it, the more I felt invisible. Until one day I asked them about it, and though the conversation was short, the message was clear. Our relationship wasn't what I thought it was. Here's the thing. Touch, no matter how small, is a signal of trust. And when someone actively avoids that with you, they're telling you something without saying a word. So stop explaining it away. Stop shrinking yourself to fit into the absence they create. You deserve relationships where comfort flows naturally, where touch isn't forced, but isn't feared either. And if someone keeps holding you at arm's length, maybe it's time to let go. You learn who's real when your world falls apart. Not when you're celebrating, not when things are easy, but when everything breaks and you're left holding the pieces. I learned this the hard way, the day I lost my job. Not just a paycheck, I lost direction, identity, confidence. I reached out, not to beg, not to vent endlessly, just a text, a call, a quiet hope for comfort. But silence answered me. The same people I had encouraged, supported, cheered on, suddenly had too much going on. They said they'd get back to me. They never did. And while they posted smiling pictures and celebrated life, I sat alone, wondering, was I ever really that important to them? It's easy to stand beside someone in the sun. It takes something deeper to show up in their storm. But most people don't want to carry your weight. They want the highlight reel, not the struggle. They'll say, always here for you, until here gets messy. That's not friendship, that's convenience. Real support isn't loud. It doesn't require grand gestures. Sometimes it's just staying, being there when there's nothing to celebrate. But when they vanish, when they don't even ask if you're okay, you don't just feel alone. You feel betrayed. That silence is louder than any goodbye. Let it teach you something. Not to hate, not to harden, but to filter. Because the ones who disappear during your darkness were never your light to begin with. And the ones who stay, even when it's uncomfortable, inconvenient, and quiet, those are the ones worth everything. It starts small, a whisper here, a misquote there, but the damage spreads fast. And suddenly, the story about you isn't yours anymore. Rumors don't always roar. Sometimes they slither, wrapped in casual conversation, half-truths, or just sharing concern. But make no mistake, when someone you once trusted speaks about you behind your back, they've already made a choice to elevate themselves by eroding you. I remember when it happened to me. An incident at work turned messy, fast. What actually happened was one thing, but what spread, a twisted version of me, told by someone I thought was on my side. They laughed with me at lunch, praised my effort in meetings, and behind closed doors, they turned my name into a cautionary tale. When I found out, I wasn't angry at first. I was stunned, because betrayal doesn't always show up in rage. Sometimes it smiles. And that's what makes gossip so dangerous. It's silent sabotage. By the time you know, the damage is done. People who gossip about others in front of you will eventually gossip about you in front of others. That's not a warning. That's a pattern. And no, it's not just talk. It's trust, broken quietly. It's connection, hollowed out from the inside. When I confronted them, they brushed it off. It was just a misunderstanding. I didn't mean it that way, but the harm wasn't accidental. It was convenient. They got to feel powerful without ever facing me directly. Here's what I've learned. You don't need to scream to defend yourself. Just leave. Protect your peace. And remember, people who lie about you have already told you who they are. Believe them. You've just walked through 7 signs, some loud, most quiet, but all powerful enough to change how you see the people around you, and maybe how you see yourself. Because recognizing these patterns isn't about blaming others. It's about reclaiming the space where your peace has been leaking, silently. Not to cut people off in anger, but to protect your energy with clarity. So ask yourself this: which of these signs have you ignored? Because facing them meant letting go? Share your thoughts below. Your story might be the mirror someone else needs right now. If this resonated, you know what to do. Subscribe, stay close. This isn't the end of the conversation, just the beginning. To be stoic is not to feel less. It's to feel fully, then choose wisely.